Hello everyone, William here. I just had another great conversation with another guest. Would you like to come in and listen in on the conversation we had? By the way, feel free to share it with anyone you feel may find it of interest. Come on, let's go listen in now.
Larry Pattison, welcome to my studio.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Thanks so much for reaching out and joining my Facebook and reaching out and offering to come into the studio and have a conversation about yourself. I'm sure that the community will be definitely interested in why you're running for school trustee for Ward 3.
Well, thanks for reaching out to me as well.
So what prompted you to run?
Well, I had been attending some of the ARC meetings. I became a parent council member at Parkview Secondary School. And just going to some of the ARC meetings, the first one I attended.
What is the ARC?
So it's a Accommodation Review Committee.
Oh, okay.
So they've been going through all the schools in the city and reviewing them in pockets or planning areas, and just kind of looking at the state that the schools are in and what the enrollments are, and definitely been going through closing a lot of schools. I mean, we're seeing it happening across Ontario, but so it's hard to see. I mean, when you lived in the city all your life, I mean, a lot of these schools have been part of these communities forever. I mean, I guess we don't want our kids to be living in our museums, but you go into some of these schools and they're still in not bad shape, and it's just hard to see anything close, right? Anything.
Sure.
We see Center Mall closing. We see these things that have been part of us. Stony Creek Dairy, they've been part of our neighborhoods for a long time, and it's hard to see them go. And sometimes what's hard is that there hasn't been a conversation or enough of a conversation that's made us feel okay with, something leaving. We all understand that some things have to go. We have to be open-minded, and some things we're going to be able to save, and some things not. But the school process has been a tough one because a lot of people are screaming, like I said, and they're screaming, across Ontario. They're screaming across North America, and so you're seeing a lot of people who really feel that there's something big missing from these conversations. And then sitting on Parkview Parent Council has been almost disturbing. I've been on my girls. They've gone to Memorial in Stony Creek, and now they're in school in the mountain. In both schools that they've been in, I've tried to get involved a little bit on their parent council. I'm a single dad, so it's, whenever time permits, I try to go, and just basically it's been more of a watching, just kind of learning what a school council is all about and what they're doing, and some great things going on. And when you go to these two schools who have parents who are really, really active in their child's education and advocating for a lot of great things for the school, it's just great to see. And then you go to Parkview, and the first meeting, they're in this meeting knowing that they're probably going to close, right? And it was just a totally different dynamic. I mean, it was actually their first parent council they've had in at least 10 years. So that was a big thing that a lot of parents had said, we really need to band together this year and talk about this and do what we can to save the school, save its programming, whatever we can do. And so I was blessed to be a part of that. I had noticed they had a kind of a mentoring program, and that's why I reached out to Paul Beatty, because I used to be a big brother, so I thought this would be great to be involved with the school and to learn a lot more about it, because I've been reading articles on the Spectator and all the great things that were happening, and I've lived by this school for a long time, and I've lived in Hamilton, and I've never really known what it was all about, right? We had a similar school on the mountain as well, now called Mountain Secondary, and I didn't really know much about that as a kid, so it was kind of my opportunity to learn a little bit about it. But I knew time-wise, because I work in Burlington, it'd be a little hard to get into the school and be a part of the kids' life. So I learned from being a part of parent councils that you can actually have community members as well. So I'm like, well, maybe I could be a community representative. So he invited me into their first meeting, and that's how it all started. And as soon as you started to learn about the school and knowing that they're going to close it and some of the reasons that they're going to close it, you're like, it's another example of a conversation that's only really one-sided, right? I mean, a lot of people are pushing for inclusion, but on the other hand, we have research talking about the other side, that it doesn't work for everybody. And so I think what became important in that community this past year is that they wanted to make sure that the other side was known, and there was some pretty solid concrete evidence on both sides. So Parkview was probably the biggest thing to get me involved in wanting to be a part of those conversations and make sure that they were happening.
So your past experience in community involvement was kind of part of what prompted you to run for council to make a difference.
Yeah, I've always loved being involved. I mean, when I was a kid, I wasn't really around that, so I guess it was in my mid-20s, I just happened to be driving by Big Brothers, and I'm like, you know what, I want I've driven by it before and thought about it, but I wanted to go in and check out what it was about, and that's kind of how Parkview happened. I just wanted to check out what it was about, and it kind of changes your life. Like Big Brothers, I was part of that for a few years, and it definitely changes you to see that different aspect of life. That you've grown up on the mountain, you've grown up in a pretty nice neighborhood, you know, lots of friends, played hockey, you know, you had pretty, you know, almost a gifted life, right? Your parents worked many hours to make sure you could afford to have these things, and now you've seen this other side where, you know, those select parents at Parkview that were involved are you know, a select few, right?
Yeah,
and,
committed individuals.
Yeah, right. And a lot of other families, for whatever reason, they have a lot going on, their own issues that they, you know, saving a school is, you know, kind of, you know, they're worried about food or their jobs or, you know, or whatever, right? So,
sure. Well, as I said, pre-conversation, pre-recording here about this community here, I've noticed that, you know, they rally behind a good cause with a lot of heart. You know, the people in any community here in Hamilton, I know we have pockets of diversification here, which is great as well. And diversification just brings flavor to another part of a community. And each community will help another community because someone's already experienced something that you may be going through and maybe allow you to look at it in a different way. And I'm just amazed at the amount of time philanthropists, as I call them, right? They're people who give of their time. They're very philanthropic with their time in this community. I've never seen it. I've never been involved like I have here in Hamilton, but I'm amazed by it, considering the tags that Hamilton has had. So.
It's a very giving community. There's one of my art teachers at Dundas Valley School of Art, Mark Tharm. He was a part of a local band called The Responsibles, and I think they might be still playing. I don't think he plays with them anymore, but one of their songs was Little Big City, and if you listen to the words, it really is. It's a 500,000 plus city, but you know, the more you get involved, and it doesn't have to be big, you can just be sharing Twitter feeds or sharing, you know, people's websites and what other people are doing, and you know, that's a good way to be involved too, you know, and then as you learn a little bit more about being involved, it just kind of, it becomes contagious. You just keep getting involved, and you know, I started really being involved. I mean, other than a little bit of volunteering when I was younger, when the stadium debate came about even, well, sorry, Red Hill, I guess, was probably the first time I had kind of a sense of the other side of what's going on in the city, and you know, and it just kind of snowballs. You start getting a little more in tune to what's going on in city politics and what people are doing in the community and the different neighborhood organizations, and like I said, it's amazing to see these people putting a great amount of time into making the city better, and that's why I think Hamilton will do better, and we can. A lot of people putting their names on the hat this election who are doing it for a lot of the right reasons. They really want to make a difference. They really want to have these conversations with people, right? So yeah,
it's a great opportunity. I mean, this year is a great opportunity for change. We've seen some people who have been in office for a very long time. Unfortunately, the Ward 3 councillor had passed away, but he had been in council for a long time, and the old guard goes out, the new guard comes in, and with no disrespect whatsoever to that gentleman. He's done some great things, and there are some things where his name's on them and he's recognized for his accomplishments, and now it's time for the new guard to come in and start to make some changes and at least have their input and their say. So having said that, what would be the number one priority that you may be hearing from people in your ward about the schools, and something that you would like to address initially?
Well, the biggest concern of a lot of people is closing schools. I mean, we all know there's a fiscal responsibility to balance the budget, but like I said earlier on, those missing parts of the conversation, you know, the lack of a relationship between the city and the board, I think that's the most important partnership. When you're looking at a website and it's showing a list of community partners and you don't see the school board themselves on there, and I think they really need to be a big part of that. And I'm sure there's, you know, reasons on both sides of why they haven't gotten along, but we really need to work together, and that's something we've been doing on this election. You know, I've really been close with Matthew Green, and I know there's maybe some danger in kind of investing yourself in a certain candidate on both sides of us, but what I think it's showing is that there's two people who at the end of the day are committed when they get elected to work closely with whoever's elected, and I realize it might not be Matthew, and he realizes it might not be me, but we're kind of setting a precedence now, having these conversations together, so that if both of us elected, then that'll continue, and if one is and one isn't, then those conversations will just have to continue with whoever's elected, and we've had that practice. We've shown the community that this is something we really want to do. We want to encourage as many neighborhood meetings and just make sure everybody in the community has had an opportunity to be in this conversation, because if you look at certain school closures, I mean, say Barton, where I went to school, or some schools down here where they haven't reached out to the age demographic coming in, they haven't reached out to other people in the community who've gone there in the past, what that school means to them. I mean, they're only really allowed to reach out to this core community who's going to that school right now to be a part of the campaign to save it, right? Mm-hmm. And we're seeing some schools that don't necessarily have the same kind of like I said, my girls' school or schools like that have really strong parent council, really strong community in them that have been great advocators. I mean, we've seen Millgrove and in Flamborough area, and we've seen Rosedale School. They have just great communities, and I think it's wonderful to see that. But mm-hmm. the problem is we have other schools that don't have that quite as backing. You look at Woodward. I mean, that community itself has really cleaned up a lot over the years, and that school's on a great property, and it is in maybe a little bit of rough condition, but it's a good location for them. But they didn't really have the same kind of rah-rah that the other schools have. So I think it's a job of the trustee. It's to bring other people into the conversation and make sure that they have a voice as well. And I think that's mm-hmm. what's missing from a lot of these other schools.
I think some of the residents in the Woodward area have been very active in keeping things clean and being the guard, as it were, of the community, and doing what they can with the minimal resources that they have at hand, cleaning up, tidying things up, making sure the pathways are cleared up. So
all those roadways are all brand new there. They got the flowers. You've got the museum there. Mm-hmm. You've got Lowe's that obviously really cleans that corner up. I mean, they've put a lot of investment in there, and of course that kind of thing is going to encourage people to buy homes there. But what happens when the school closes? And that's, I know they're having that discussion. The city's doing some research about Parkside and closing in Dundas. Mm-hmm. So they're trying to see what these effects are going to be, when these neighborhoods lose their schools, property values, or what the demographics become when these schools leave the community. So
so as a trustee, from what I'm hearing is you're hoping to have more participation from the community, like whether it be town halls, more involvement in their opinions on and their perspectives on the things that are going on in the schools than there currently is. So allowing a platform for them.
Exactly. And you're seeing something like the People's Platform, who's kind of trying to engage the community to put their own platform together, what they want to see the elected officials work on, right? So I think it's important for us to be a part of that. Let them tell us what they want, because that's what we're supposed to be here for. Of course, we're going to walk in with lots of ideas, and I think I have a lot of ideas too, but at the end of the day, my ideas are down here, and it's what they really want to see for their schools and their communities, right?
That's how you represent, right?
Yeah, that's right,
Right. Otherwise, you represent yourself, and as a trustee, you're wanting to represent the community.
Yeah, like I say, you look at Parkview as another example. You had 1,100 some odd people who've not just signed a petition, but if you read through every single comment, there's some pretty good arguments about it, and you're like, well, how does this get ignored? How do you still close a school? How do you look at London? That's they had 2 vocational schools. I mean, Parkview hasn't been vocational in a few years, but it's still sort of like that in a way. So in London, they recognize that we can't close them both down. We need to keep one, because we realize that all kids need different kinds of learning. So they recognize that we're here. We've decided, no, we're going to close them both, and we're going to include everybody in the schools, and that's what they want to see, and that's the law, right? Where it's really important to, so if the community wants to keep it around for a little while and see how the inclusion model is working, then I think we need to listen to that, right?
Yeah, very good. So just in closing, what would you like the community to know about Larry Pattison and your involvement in being the trustee?
Well, I've lived in Hamilton all my life. I've lived in the lower city almost my entire adult years, and I've lived in Ward 3, owned a home for about 8 years. Probably lived down in this area a total of close to 12 years. I've been involved in community groups and a lot of writing, advocacy in that way. I'm a single dad. So I think I bring something to the table to a lot of other families who are struggling, just one parent. I mean, I'm lucky the kids have 2 very supportive parents, so you can't really say totally a single parent, but definitely the challenges of having two separate households. I've seen questions about head lice and all these other issues that some of the parents have, and I'm like, yeah, I not only realize that, because we've had that issue too, I realize having two households where they're going back and forth and both of you are cleaning. So I think there's things of that I've been through in life that I've learned the hard way, and I'd like to work with the community who are also struggling in those to make it easier for them. The easier we can make their own lives, I think the easier it is on their child's education.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of experience in the community and a lot of experience living here, and with children and schools. So I truly appreciate you coming out and having a conversation. I look forward to having you back in again as things progress, as it gets closer. If you'd like to come in and sit down and talk about your progress, I'd really appreciate having you come back in, Larry.
Well, thanks again, Bill. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Join us. Catch the bug.